Hello, good to be back. Sorry I didn't go live last night, but I was kept losing the Wi-Fi during the day. So during the day my TV would go off and things like that. And I thought, well, if I go live tonight, I'm going to have the same trouble. So because of the high winds, and I mean high winds, where I live, I'm on the corner of the block. So the wind hits my kitchen, bathroom, and balcony, right? And it just rattles, and then it howls past my living room. But by the time it gets to my bedroom, you can hear it, but it's not that loud. So I decided yesterday afternoon to come in the bedroom. I set up my laptop, my mic, everything. But then I started to lose the Wi-Fi because of the winds, and it was loud. So I just stayed in my bedroom all day yesterday, and I've done the same again today, and my cats seem a lot calmer while I've been in the bedroom because they can both lie by me. Oh, just gotta get comfy. Right now, we're talking about this vile creature. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to give him notoriety of it. I don't want to. And I saw clips of what the judge said. Then I was able to sit and watch it, most of it, because they didn't show you all of the court stream. They didn't. They just showed you when the judge was talking. And it broke me. That's why I couldn't go live Thursday, because I thought, no, I can't do it tonight. Not happening. And then yesterday we had the high winds, so it just broke me though what I heard. And there's been a lot of discussion about this because he got 52 years minimum. He got a life sentence, but 52 years minimum. That means after 52 years, he can go for parole. Well, it's going to be, 69, 70 by the time that comes, if he survives. If he survives. And this person is evil. Is pure evil. And to think, like, in 52 years, I won't be here, but my grandchildren will be, and the children who survived and suffered that horrendous ordeal will be, hopefully. And it's going to be these youngsters that will be on the parole hearing. And we need to make sure that this is seen everywhere. Like on the internet, everywhere. So then when anyone punches his name in, or punches in Southport, or anything like that, this is going to be the first case that comes up. Him. So that no one will ever forget him. In a way where they think, what a poor man. He's been in 51 years. He's changed. He's demonic. He's evil. He should not be out. And there's been a lot of talk as well about, because of his age, he was 17 when he committed the crime, and he was 9 days short of being 18. But because he was 17, they can't give him a whole life sentence. And I thought, well, he's only 9 days short of being 18. Surely, in exceptional cases like this, you could say, well, we can give him longer sentences. 52 years is a long sentence. That's the longest I've ever heard of anyone getting. But for him, he deserves life. But now people are also talking about the DP, death penalty. Now, I've always said, if there's someone who outright did this murder, now this guy, this lad, this man, he was caught standing over one of the children. He had the blood on his clothing and he had the weapon in his hands when the police got there. Right? He was out and out guilty. He even said it. He pleaded guilty. At the last minute, when he's due to start the trial proceedings where they start working out the jury and all this stuff, he pleaded guilty to all charges. The 3 murders and the 10 attempted murders. And the charge of having ricin in his home, the Al-Qaeda manual, death manual you could say, PDF file. He had machetes, everything in his bedroom. He was determined. He had information. He was a white racist. He wanted mass murder of the whites. He was looking up Rwanda genocide. He was looking up Hitler. All these vile people. Right? He was looking up terrorists, the London terrorists that was stabbing people on the bridge. He was looking up and reading everything on them cases. Now, okay, I read a lot of these cases, but it's not because I want to go out and kill someone. It's because I'm looking it up so that I can get a good feeling of why people will do what they do. And then I don't download it. I don't download it onto my laptop. No way. But he had all this information. There was 10 times he was caught with a knife in school. 10 times. Once he went into the school, he got expelled from the school, and he went back with a knife and a hockey stick. Right? He was out for this one lad. This one lad who apparently had been bullying him. He got stopped. He was referred. Well, no, let's go back a bit further. When he was about 12, he phoned, was it Childline, to ask him what he should do because he's got thoughts about killing mass people. This was when he was like 12 and 13. He had these thoughts then, right? Then he's had them 10 charges of the knives, but no one ever prosecuted him on that. He got referred to an organisation for anti-terrorism called Prevent, and they are there to prevent anyone from being radicalised or wanting to do anything as monstrous as this. They are there to prevent that and to work with these children and these adults. We have, from what I heard yesterday, I believe it's 162 people on the prevent list. 162. Can we be sure that our children are safe at school? Can we be sure we are safe walking around a shopping arcade? Can we be sure that we are safe if we go on the underground, on a train, on a coach? I travel down to Glasgow about every 3 to 4 months to see my daughter, unless she comes up here. Am I safe to travel? Is there going to be some maniac on a coach? Right? He's going to go round killing everyone. Am I safe walking around the shops now? Are my grandchildren safe going to school? There's 162 on the prevent list. We don't know where they are based, where they live, nothing. But they obviously didn't work well enough with. Well, he got referred, this vile piece of shit, got referred 3 times to prevent. But, because he didn't hit their criteria, they couldn't help him. Because he wasn't demonstrating anything to say he was with being radicalised into a group or an organisation, they couldn't help him. I'm sorry, you've got lone terrorists all the time. He was saying he wanted to mass murder. He wanted to do a genocide from the age of 13. And yet Prevent could not help him. That's disgusting. They are at fault. They, if they can't prevent people doing this, if they can't help people, then we shouldn't even be paying for them to be running as an organisation. Sorry. Stop that organisation. Give the money you give to them to the families who have now got this torture of living without their children. The survivors who've got survivor's guilt, who believe they could have done more. The teacher in the classroom that done the Taylor Swift theme party said, "How can I live knowing children died? How can she?" You know what I mean? That broke me as well. I'm thinking, oh my Lord, no. None of these people, the woman, the teacher, the 2 men, and I've got the interviews of 2 of the men that went to help. None of them should feel guilty for what happened. They wasn't the ones wielding the knife. And then we got the parents. Came from Rwanda 8 years before the massacre or something like that happened in Rwanda. Why was they allowed to stay here? We'd like to know. And I believe, from what I understand, it was Keir Starmer, who was the CP at the time, Crown Prosecutor or whatever. He was the one who fought for them to stay in this country, allegedly. That's what I heard at the very beginning of this case, when they mentioned the parents. Other people have mentioned it as well. So I'm not the only one who heard it. And yet they now put his parents in, relocated them, gave them a new name and relocated them. They are paying, we, the taxpayer, is paying for them. We, the taxpayer, are paying for that vile piece of shit to sit in prison. Why aren't the parents talking? A week before he did this monstrous, vile, right? His dad caught him getting into a taxi. His dad managed to get him out of the taxi. But from the video, It doesn't look like he was dragging him out of the taxi. I've opened the door and fucking got him by the throat and dragged him out of the fucking taxi. I'm sorry for my language, but I'm fucking mad. I'm flipping mad, right? And we're going to see these videos. Did he report that to the police? Now, if that had been me, I'd have dragged him out of the taxi, thrown him in my car, and took him to the nearest mental institution and had him sectioned. Because you can have someone sectioned for their own safety and for the safety of others. You can. He could have took him to the fucking police station. Said, my son was just going to go to this school to do mass genocide, mass murder. I want him sectioned. They could have done that, but oh no, no. He gets him. He gets him. He persuades the taxi driver not to take him. So you see the lad then get out of the taxi and walk back in the house. Was that reported? Not that we found out. Nothing's come out about him reporting it to the police then. That was a week before. That was the last day of the school term. He was going to go back to his senior school. Right? He then read about this case, this Taylor Swift party, knowing, because if you read about it, it tells you the ages, from the age of, say, 5 to 10 or 5 to 13 or whatever. So he knew the ages of the children that was going to be in there. We've got video of him walking up to the building, trying to get in the main doors. Couldn't get in. But why was the door open? I do not know. But then he walks to this right, and there's a door that's open. In he goes, up the stairs. Boom, he's there. That door should never have been opened. There should have been some two-door system. Like, if you got past the first door, you're not going to get past the second door. All right? I've been to many soft plays, yeah? And you go in the main door, you pay, they buzz you in, and you go into the main building, yeah? To get out, you have to let them know, and they buzz you out so you can come into the reception area again to get out. If you're having anything where children are involved, they should have had a system like that. But obviously, they've hired this hall without the proper two-door entry, leaving a door open so anyone can just walk in. I don't know if there was other activities going on. I understand there may have been a gym in there or offices in there. I'm not sure. But even so, there should have been, if you can't have a two-door system where there is children, then it shouldn't be allowed to go ahead in that building. That is one failing. That is the only failing. Well, plus the door was open. So there's two failings. The door was left open, and there was no two-door system. Big failing there. So, but you can't. I'm not going to go on about them because they're going through a lot at the moment themselves. You know what I mean? But this vile piece of shit, and I've got his picture up on my TV at the moment. He don't deserve to breathe the air we are. In cases like this, in extreme cases like this, where overwhelming evidence he was guilty. He was the one who done it. Right? Then the DP should apply. And I also think if we've got, like, I heard someone say, the last, she said, when was the last death penalty used? Right? And this guy said 1966 something, and it was. That was the last time it was used. And the reason it wasn't used after that was because the guy who had the death penalty had some uh like nowadays you class it as autism or ADHD or some educational problems, right? He was killed and he wasn't guilty, right? But even after that, they didn't use it again, but it was there. The death penalty was there if they wanted to. They only took it off the whole of the court thing, the whole of the register in 1990 or 89 or 88 or 98, something like that. So the death penalty had been there for years. Even when I was growing up, the death penalty was there. I didn't know that because it wasn't put out there. We need the death penalty back. Not that I use it. Oh, you're guilty. You murdered this person. Death. You know what I mean? No. If you've got the death penalty, I believe, this is just my opinion, if you've got the death penalty, it's going to make people think twice. It's going to make them think twice. Right? We had that death penalty there up until, I'm sure, let's say 1998. It was only after that it was took off record altogether, which was the worst thing possible. Because in these cases, if we'd still had the death penalty, we could have said, use the death penalty. This is one case that deserves the DP. It's one case that deserves the death penalty. He's evil. He's demonic. Even looking at his face, his eyes, is just pure evil. People say, have you ever looked evil in the eyes? Look at that picture. You are looking evil in the eyes. I will not put his picture up here no more. I will not mention his name. But there's enough videos out there with his picture up there, with his name. So people will see this in 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. Just Google it. Whatever it is then, whether it's Google or something else, you'll find him. His name will be at the top. The most notorious killer in the UK, his name will be at the top. Right? Well, let me just move again because when I'm on my bed, I tend to start lying down. And that's a bad thing. So we're going to look. Hang on, I've just got to get to where my downloads are. And we're going to listen to, I think, I'm not sure which one we're going to listen to first. Oh yeah, another thing. It's just that I've just seen it on my downloads. When you go to Southport and you ask people about this Southport, you know what they say? 19 seconds, about Keir Starmer and Southport. They say 19 seconds. So I watched that, and from the time he got out of the car, walked up, placed down his wreath, it was 19 seconds. By the time he left, it was 30 seconds. He had 30 seconds spent there. From walking to the car, placing his wreath down, waiting for the others to do what they had to do, then turn around and walk away. And then he could only push out 30 seconds for these children. 30 seconds of his day. But then on the night time, he had a celebrity party in his in the number 10 back garden. Oh yeah, he could give them several hours, but he couldn't even give them more. He only gave these children 30 seconds the most. 19 seconds to lay the wreath, and 30 seconds before he turned to walk back to the car. That is our Prime Minister. And I might actually put that one up first. So then you can check it yourself. You can check it yourself. I will stop it when it hits 19 seconds. And I'll stop it, start it again, and then stop it again. Hold on. Start it again, and then stop it again at 30 seconds. Right? You can see he's out the car because the angle of the camera was there. So he's just walking along now.
How many more children has died on our streets, Prime Minister? How many more children?
13
How many
seconds,
more
by the
children,
way,
Prime
14,
Minister?
15.
We're going to
It was actually 16 seconds to lay the wreath. 16 to 17
do
seconds.
something. Time to change, Starmer. Come on, needed. How many more children? Do mine next. What's you to stand up for our children?
30 seconds before he turns to walk away. 30 to 31 seconds. Wow. Good one, PM. Good one. Not a word. No. Not a word for the families, for the children. Nothing. You could only spare 31 seconds. That's disgusting. Now we're going to watch it again without me interrupting.
How many more children has died on our streets, Prime Minister? How many more children? How many more children, Prime Minister? We're going to do something. Time to change, Starmer. Come on, needed. How many more children? Do mine next. What's you to stand up for our children? Yeah. Bye-bye. Right, it's fine, so off you go. Make a real change, Prime Minister. Get some, make a real change! Get our children! Go away!
That video was 52 seconds long. That's all it was. 52 seconds long. Right? Now, hold on. Just got to make sure I've got all my warnings up. Hold on. Trigger warning up there. Oh. Oh, bangers. Right, this is going to be triggering now. Because the next video we're watching is the judge. Okay? We're going to go back to this video, don't worry. We're going to be coming back. Mm-hmm. 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 I think this is the one. Hold on. Yeah, this is the one. I'm going to widen the screen. Now, I will say trigger warning. I've got it up on my screen. It's trigger warning. Please, if it gets too much, you don't want to listen to this again, walk away.
She tried to save as many children as she could. Leaning over them, Ruda Cabana attacked her also. She did all she could before escaping, but suffered 5 stabs back, shoulder blade, and arm. She required a blood transfusion. She also suffered fractures to a spinal vertebrae, a rib, a shoulder blade, and all caused by severe force. And Jonathan Hayes was an adult working in a different part of the upstairs to the building. After he heard the disturbance, he went out to see what had happened and was attacked with a knife. Ruda Cabana stabbed him in the leg, causing a deep wound as he tried to kill him. He was only saved when another witness appeared. I have read each of the victim personal statements, and many have been read out to the court. They are all deeply moving. The harm that Ruda Cabana has caused to each family, each child, and to the community has been profound and permanent. For the families of Elsie, Bibi, and Alice, they will never recover from what happened to their daughter. For those children and the adults that he attempted to murder, their lives will never be the same, nor will their families who are left to look after their exceptionally brave daughters. Also for the emergency services whose personnel had to deal with the aftermath. In just under 15 minutes, Ruda Cabana murdered 3 children, murdered 8 other children, and also 2 adults, murdering more only by the escape of the other children. When the police arrived at about 12 noon, they found him standing over the body of B.B. King and still holding the knife. It was B.B. who had suffered at least 122 separate knife wounds, and whilst Ruda Cabana did not say anything in his police interviews, he did make unsolicited comments, which are deep as kids are dead. It makes me happy, close quote. And quote, it's a good thing those children are dead, close quote. In his home,
That was evil speaking. Evil speaking.
the police discovered clear evidence of a settled intention to carry out mass killing. On one of his computers were files proving that he had a long-standing preoccupation with violent killing and genocide. Of particular significance were copies of an Al-Qaeda training manual, which described methods of killing with a knife and where to attack the victim.
Exactly. The Al Qaeda manual. And yet, the government, the CPS, still say it was not a terrorist attack. What he did, how he killed these young girls, was just how he would tell him to do it in that manual. Listen to what it says in a minute. Hold on. Let's just go back a little bit. Listen to what it says about it.
Files proving that he had a long-standing preoccupation with violent killing and genocide. Of particular significance were copies of an Al-Qaeda training manual, which described methods of killing with a knife and where to attack the victim. Part of it referred to attacking the head and neck, just as he had done to some of the victims in this case. Also, the manual provided instruction on how to produce ricin, a highly dangerous toxin, which can cause multiple deaths and has no known antidote. I am sure that he had followed those instructions because the police found in his bedroom the materials to produce ricin and a pulp residue within a container. That was examined by an expert in chemical and biological warfare agents, Dr. Martin Pierce, and confirmed it was ricin pulp and castor oil. His opinion was that there was sufficient ricin pulp that with some further purification process, it would have provided a range of up to 1,269 doses, which would cause death if inhaled. However, there was no evidence that Ruda Cabana had recently tried purification. I am satisfied that for some time he had planned to kill as many people as he could, as the prosecution have called it, quotes, a mass killing. He bought the knife he wanted to use, which had a particularly sharp point. He had read information on how to stab people with greatest effect to kill them. He saw the publicity for a children's party in Southport at the Heart Space Dance Studio and decided to kill as many as he could, targeting very young children. I'm also satisfied that if he hadn't decided that way of killing, in time he was highly likely to use the ricin he had produced. The prosecution have made it clear that these proceedings were not acts of terrorism within the meaning of the terrorism legislation, because there is no evidence that Ruda Cabana's purpose was to advance political, religious, racial, or ideological cause. I must accept that conclusion. However, in my judgment, his culpability for this extreme level of violence is equivalent in its seriousness to terrorist murders, whatever his purpose. Whether his motivation was for terrorism or not misses the point. What he did on the 29th of July last year has caused such shock and revulsion to the whole nation that it must be viewed as being at the very extreme level of crime. His culpability and the harm he caused and intended were at the highest. I do not, however, take into account against him what happened in different parts of the country after his arrest. He did not cause that. Axel Ruda Cabana was born in Cardiff on the 7th of August of 2006. He's a UK citizen, now aged 18, but was still 17 when he committed these offences. He was only 9 days short of his 18th birthday, which has a particular significance. Had he been 18, I make it clear that I would have been compelled to impose on him life imprisonment without a minimum term, otherwise known as a whole life term, meaning that he would never be released. However, the law does not permit such a sentence for those offenders who are under 18 when they offend. Ruda Cabana has only one previous conviction, on the 19th of February 2020, when he was aged 13, for possession of a knife on school premises, assault, and possession of an offensive weapon in a public place. He was made subject to a juvenile referral order. Those offences took place when he returned to the school from which he'd been excluded due to his previous behaviour. He entered the school without permission, carrying a knife and hockey stick, intent on attacking another pupil, whom he said had bullied him. For the offence of murder on counts 1, 2, and 3, the sentence must be custody for life. I'm required to fix the minimum term which he must serve in custody before he may apply to the parole board for his release. It will be for the board to decide if he is ever safe to be released into the community, and if ever he is, he will remain on licence for the rest of his life, subject to recall into custody if he breaches his licence terms. The minimum term I will fix will be a very substantial one, and the very least he will be detained, which will mean that he will serve almost the whole of his life in custody. I consider at this time that it is likely he will never be released and that he will be in custody for all his life. The starting point in deciding the minimum term in custody on count 1 to 3 must be 27 years, because he was 17 years old when he murdered Elsie, Bibi and Alice. I find the following circumstances make those murders yet more serious. Firstly, there are two exceptionally high factors that would, but for his age, require me to impose a whole life term. The murder of 2 or more persons where each murder involved a substantial degree of premeditation or planning, and it was in each case the murder of a child with such premeditation or planning. Secondly, the children were particularly vulnerable because of their very young age, being 7, 6 and 9 respectively. Thirdly, the physical suffering that he caused as he repeatedly stabbed them. Fourthly, there were 3 murders. Fifthly, at the time he carried out these murders, he also attempted to kill 10 more, 8 of whom were also very young children. Sixthly, the severity of the injuries caused to the victims. Seventhly, he produced highly toxic poison ricin, which he was very likely to use at some time had he not committed these offences. In mitigation for this offending, Rudy Cabana is still only 18 years old. However, I consider that his age has already provided him with a substantial reduction in his sentence, because it means that he has avoided a whole life term. Whilst he has entered guilty pleas, saving the families and victims the pain of a trial, he cannot claim to have shown any remorse. His unsolicited comments in the police station made clear his feelings. However, lack of remorse is not an aggravating factor. I have read evidence within a statement of an assistant head teacher which describes how Rudy Cabana's early years at school developed from a normal student to one who became increasingly threatening to those he felt had wronged him, leading to his exclusion. None of this gives any indication of what he was to do on the 29th of July last year. I have read the intermediary assessment report dated the 24th of September 2024, in which its author said that he presented as having high-functioning autism and that he does not have any associated learning disabilities. The report found that he had some communication and attention difficulties. None of this offered any explanation for this offending. No further expert evidence has been provided on his behalf. I've taken into account the overarching principles sentencing children and young people. The fact that he's now 18 years old does not make the guideline irrelevant. However, I'm not persuaded that his emotional age is different to his chronological age. I will give him the appropriate discount to reflect the fact that whilst almost 18, he was still young. In sentencing, I will do concurrent sentences, meaning they will all be served at the same time. However, I will treat the murder offences in counts 1 to 3 as the lead offences and take into account all served. Also, have in mind the totality of the sentences, requiring me to take a step back and consider whether they're just and proportionate, and I conclude that they are. The guilty pleas will allow some small discount on the sentence because they were entered so late on the first day of the trial. I turn to the attempted murder offences in counts 4 to 13. Each of these offences requires me to impose concurrent sentences of for life under section 272 Sentencing Act 2020. Within the Act, I am satisfied of these offences, Cabana is a defender, and that the circumstances justify the imposition of a life sentence. I must then fix the custodial term which he must serve. For each offences where he attempted a child, being count 4 level, the appropriate guideline is category 2 with a starting point sentence of 30 years and a range up to 35 years. By him requires me to increase that sentence to the top of the range. On each murder of the Lucas and Johnson Hayes. The guideline category is B2 with a starting point of 25 years and a range up to 30 years. With the same aggravating factors of seriousness and mitigation for counts 4 to 11, I increase the sentence to 30 years, reducing it to 27 years for age and to 24 years for guilty plea. On count 14, having an article, this is 18 months custody. This is a category 1A offence, which I have reduced the sentence to reflect his A and plea. 15, production of a biological toxin. There is no system by reference in which a sentence of 8 years imprisonment after conviction was upheld by the Court of Appeal, the decision based upon its own facts. I'm satisfied that his production in this case of ricin was more advanced and is associated with Rudakabana's mindset to cause many killings, whilst he had not used the ricin by the time of his arrest. Taking into account his culpability and the harm risked, allowing for his age and guilty plea, I sentenced 12 years custody. Count 16, a document likely to 18 months custody after taking into account his age and plea and applying the guideline category 3C. I'm now going to sentence Axel Rudakabana, having explained my reasons. On counts 1 to 3 murder, I sentence him to custody for life with a minimum term which he must serve in custody of 52 years, less the time he's served already. He's been in custody for 175 days on remand, will be credited. Minimum term is 100 concurrently to custody for life with a minimum term of 18 years, less 175 days served, each concurrently each other. 190 days. On counts 12 and 13, sentenced him concurrently to custody for life, 16 years, less his time served on remand, on each count concurrently with each other, leading to a minimum term on those counts of 15 years and 190 days. On counts 14 and 16, I sentenced him to 18 months concurrently and other offences under 18 statutory charge, which will be entered on the court record. Accordingly, in total, I sentenced through 14 sentences of custody for life and a minimum to be served in custody 51 days and 190 days.
Highly unlikely. Right? There's going to be people who will get arrested, will be put in that prison, will come up into the same prison as him. And some might be in there for life. Right? And they will go for him. They'll try anything to get to him. The prison can't protect him fully. Right? They cannot protect him fully. He will get to. It's like I was surprised how quick they got to that. The father who killed his 10-year-old daughter. I don't think he did. I think he'd been in there about a week. A week, if that. When someone had got to him. So, but there are other Muslim groups that will. So, I don't know. I do two things. I check for two things. One, if Sebastian Rogers has been found. And two, if he is this guy, is this Someone will get to him. I don't know who, but someone will. I'll read the comments. I'll be going, karma. Karma. At least we won't have to be paying the 3 million or 3 billion a year or whatever it is to keep him in that prison, to keep him safe. You know what I mean? Why should we keep him safe? What about keeping our children safe? No one is out there keeping our children safe. But, oh, now he's in prison, we've got to protect him. Oh, yeah, we can't let anyone unalive him. Why? Why? You didn't protect us. You didn't protect him, and you're protecting his family. Why are you protecting his family? Why don't the mother and father speak out? See the people talking about this. Let me see all these YouTube channels and news channels saying, why aren't the parents talking? And how they feel. The parents are just... Why didn't they? Why are they protecting them? What are they... There's still so many questions to this case have been unanswered. And Keir Starmer won't talk about it. They won't acknowledge it as a terrorist attack. Now, I'm going to pull up some... let's have a look. List rules. Let's have a look to see what I can find. I'll find it in a minute. But I found something today. I typed it in. I can't remember what I typed in. And he covered every factor that needed to be done. Let's see what it says here. Right, here it is. It's not the one I found earlier, but it's the same one. Let me just take myself out of the picture. Right. Let me go back up here. It says, terrorism interpretations. 1. In this act, terrorism means the use of threat or of action where A, the action falls within subsection 2, which we're going to look at. B, the use or threat is designed to influence the government or an international governmental organisation or to intimidate the public or section of the public. And the use of or threat is made for the purpose of advancing a political, religious, or ideological cause. Well, I'm trying to say, because they could not find no ideological reason behind them having the manual or the writing, that they can't call it a terrorist attack. But then, and we're going to listen to that piece of piece of a Prime Minister talk. He says we're looking at a new era or something like that of terrorists. We've had lone terrorists. We've had lone wolves. Right. Action falls within this subsection if it A. Involves serious violence against a person. Tick. Involves serious damage to property. Nope. Endangers a person's life other than of the person committing the action. Tick. Creates a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public. Or tick. Is designed seriously to interfere with or seriously disrupt an electronic system. No. So there's three parts of that covers it. And yet they're saying it's not a terrorist. Right? They're saying because he had no ideology, because he didn't just focus on one ideology, like Islam or, I don't know, all the others, the IRA, anything like that. Because he didn't focus on one ideology and he focused on all different ones, they can't put it down as a terrorist attack. What are they talking out there? Fecking backsides. It says here, involves serious violence against a person. Tick. Endangers a person's life other than that of the person committing the action. Tick. Creates a serious risk to the health or safety of the public or a section of the public. Tick. And yet they will not admit or acknowledge it as being a terrorist threat. Feck's sake, if he hadn't gone for those little girls, would he have continued to process that rising? Right? If he'd have processed that rising, he could have took it to, I don't know, an airport, a shopping arcade, anywhere where there's hundreds of people gathering in one go. Would that be classed as a terrorist act then? Would that? Yes. So why is this not being classed as a terrorist act? Just because he isn't, I'm with Al Qaeda or whatever. Just because he's not defining himself as to with one specific group doesn't mean he's not a terrorist. He put terror in the hearts of those children. The terror in the faces of those children who he unalived. The one young girl, the older of the three, managed to get outside, but collapsed outside. Right? And the other one had 95. Or was it 85? Something like that. I've got the information on my ex account. I'm going to pull it up. And the other one, trigger warning everyone. I'm not sure if it's on this account or on the other one. Yeah. Right? Here it is. Hold on. Just gotta get my composure because I can feel it coming on. I can feel my heart is pounding. Oh. What was the name of this? I can't remember the name. But this one, this little girl, A6. I think this was BB. I'm not sure. Anyway, stabbed 122 times, attacked, escaped, collapsed, finished off. So he attacked her, she escaped, she collapsed, and then he finished her off. Stabbed the second little girl 85 times, attacked, escaped, collapsed, finished off. I know this is hard to hear, but it's hard, right? This young girl, aged 9, managed to escape severe head injury. He went for the head and neck and the back and things like that. Severe head injury, heart stopped bleeding, heart stopped beating, 2 wounds cut through the ribs, damaged skull, died in hospital. This teacher received 5 stab wounds as she screamed, "Run away" at the children. Survived despite life-threatening condition. I heard her shoulder, it stabbed her that bad into her shoulder and on her back. Her arm was literally off. This young girl, these are anonymous ones because they was the ones who survived and their children. Girl 1, stabbed 32 times, tried to leave but was pulled back in, re-emerged and collapsed, survived despite life-threatening condition. They've got that on video where she's leaving the building and he grabs her and pulls her back in. 10-year-old, stabbed 8 times, managed to escape 8 times. Another 8-year-old. Oh, no, sorry, that was 10-year-old, sorry. 8-year-old, stabbed 4 times, managed to survive. 9-year-old, stabbed 3 times in the chest, suffered 2 fractured vertebrae, managed to survive. How do these children survive? I do not know. 8-year-old, stabbed in chest, but survived. 7-year-old, wounded on chin and arm. 10-year-old, taken by ambulance to hospital, had to have her spleen removed. Will have to be on antibiotics for the rest of her life because her spleen is what controls her antibodies from illness and everything like that. She cannot afford to get a simple little cold. "13-year-old, stabbed twice in shoulder and chest, suffered major blood loss and survived." Anonymous girl too, not giving her age. Right? Stabbed 8 times, managed to survive. But these two, he was standing over her when the police got there. I'm not going to say what he literally did to that little girl with the knife. And it says it. The Southport monster didn't just kill these 3 little white girls. He stabbed them hundreds of times, and he stabbed almost a dozen other girls almost as many times, even dragging the wounded back into the centre as they were fleeing, so he could cut them up even more. Later, he would laugh at the police and express that he was glad they was dead. Starmer's government knew all of this and knew all of his anti-white motivations. based on his reading list and told no one the gory details. We didn't want to know the gory details. We don't need to know that. But this was a guy who was intent on going, he's a white racist. He had hate for the white. Instead, together with the legacy media, the British government and the police called it misinformation and disinformation. Yeah. To suggest that he had a racial motive. So that is what they did. They made out to the public, well, we said anything about this guy, about him being a terrorist, about him being this, about him being that. Right? It was misinformation and disinformation. And they was locking us up to suggest that he had any racial motive. Yet they knew that day. By the end of that day, Starman knew everything they'd found in that home. They painted those protesting over the murders as far right. Yes. And arrested and jailed hundreds for social media posts. They did, and they need to be released. The police even threatened to extradite anyone from overseas for talking about it. Like Elon Musk and people like that. So if you'd have been in the USA and you'd have been talking about it, they were threatening to extradite you over here. I couldn't see your government letting that happen, but they was threatening to do it. Those people, not the ones for throwing bricks and all that lot, and smashing windows, not them ones. They did destruction. They went on a rampage. They need to be kept in prison for the time they was given. But the ones that was just for putting a tweet up or a Facebook post up, 2 or 3 years, no. They should never have been sent to prison. Disgusting how they've been treated. But that's the girls. Anyway, I'll take that down so that you don't have to see it. Okay, let's just take him off now. It says here, that piece of ish made enough ricin to kill 12,000 people. He pled guilty to terrorism charges. He was charged in October when they told us that charges of terrorist charges had been given to him. He pled guilty. But then when it comes to sentencing, the CP, Crown Prosecution, said, well, because we had no ideology, he didn't conform to any one ideology. I don't give a hoot what ideology they conform to or they don't. He put terror in those lives of those children who have survived. One only has to get a cold and she could die because she has no spleen. She's on antibiotics for the rest of her life. Just let that sink in. We're paying, what was it, 3,000, no, 300,000 or whatever a year to keep him in prison. No, DP, death penalty, and then give that money to the families that need it, to the children that suffered, to the teacher who hid in the toilet with one child, one or two children, right? Thought the other children had got out, so hid in the toilet with one or two of the children. Then realised they hadn't all got out, and she could hear the screams. You know what I mean? You got all that. They've got to leave that for the rest of their lives. Hold on. They've got to live with that the rest of their lives. So that money that we're using out of our taxpayers shouldn't go to him, shouldn't be keeping him in prison in safety. Should go to these families. To every one of those families. To the mother and the fathers of those 3 young girls. Which Kia could only manage 30 seconds to spend there. Right? We're going to listen to Keir Starmer. I'm going to speed this one up because
in this case. Every parent in Britain will have had the same thought. It could have been anywhere. It could be our children. But it was South. Was I said there would be a time for questions. But first, justice had to be. And that above all, we must not with the work of the police, the prosecutors, and the their lives will never.
Hold on. Just make sure you see this because that's it. So I lost you for a bit on here.
Be the same.
Never be the
Before I turn
same.
to
No.
the questions that must now be answered for the families and the nation, I first want to recognise their unimaginable grief, because I know the whole country grieves for them. The tragedy of the Southport killings must be a line in the sand for Britain.
Oh, you didn't grieve for them, did you? You did. You gave them 30 seconds of your fucking precious day. 52 seconds all in all by the time you got back in the car and drove away. But then had a nice celeb party in your number 10 Downing Street house. Garden. I don't care. If I'd have been Prime Minister and that had happened and I'd had a big party, I would have gone, no, we either cancel it or if you don't cancel it, you lot go, I'm not. I can't go. Me personally, I could cancel it. A few celebs, cancel it.
We must make sure the names of those 3 young girls are not associated with the vile perpetrator, but instead with a fundamental change in how Britain protects its citizens and its children. In pursuit of that, we must, of course, ask and answer difficult questions. Questions that should be far-reaching, unburdened.
Right, question, Kia. Was it you who fought for the father in the court justice? How many years back? 10 years or whatever back, or 18 years back? Was it you that fought for his father to stay in this country? Was he? And if so, what was your reasonings for having him stay in the country?
By cultural or institutional sensitivities, and driven only by the pursuit of justice. That is what we owe the families. The responsibility for this barbaric act lies, as it always does, with the vile individual who carried it out. But that is no comfort. And more importantly, it is no excuse. And so, as part of the inquiry launched by the Home Secretary yesterday, I will not let any institution of the state deflect from their failure. Failure which, in this case, frankly, leaps off the page.
Oh, so you're going to hold yourself responsible then, are you, Kia?
For example, the perpetrator was referred to the PREVENT programme on 3 separate occasions. In 2019, once, and in 2021, twice.
Hold on, Kia. The reason they couldn't do anything was because he had no ideology. He didn't associate with any one organisation. That was why they couldn't help him. Now, isn't that why you have not brought terrorist charges upon him? Because he had no ideology. He had no ideology to any one organisation. So if you're going to go after PREVENT, then go after yourself. I don't like PREVENT. I think they're doing a piss poor job. When you think there's 160 odd people still out there on our streets on their books. How many are out there of like that for a piece of ish? How many out there have gone to PREVENT and they've not been able to help because they've not held any ideology to any one cause, to any one organisation? How many are out there like that? If they've got 169 on their books, how many have they not got on their books? Those are the ones I want to know about.
Yet on each of these occasions, a judgment was made that he did not meet the threshold for intervention.
Yeah,
A
like you're
judgment
saying with
that was clearly wrong and which failed those families. And I acknowledge that here today. Throughout this case, to this point, we have only been focused on justice. If this trial had collapsed because I or anyone else had revealed crucial details while the police were investigating, while the case was being built, while we were awaiting a verdict, then the vile individual who committed these crimes would have walked away a free man.
BS! All we wanted to know was why did the media not give the proper picture out of him? They was allowed to. Even the judge said because of his age and he's only 9 days away from being 18, his picture could be released. So they released a picture of an innocent Welsh schoolboy. Oh, he couldn't do these dreadful things. And not the devil-looking evil piece of ish that he was. Why was that picture never produced? Right? Because the media, the mainstream media, are so fucking woke, it's unbelievable. If it don't fit into their likings, what they want to talk about, they won't talk about it. And the people showed that outside the court the other day, where, what was it, Sly News and BBC One had to move out the area because the people didn't want them there. The people spoke out. Their eyes are wide open, and our eyes were wide open to you and your piss artist government who do nothing to protect our children, nothing to protect our women. Only today I found out there's a case in a little town, and just across this field, you only have to walk across the field, there's a hotel, right? People make it out like sounds so far to walk, but you can walk across the field, it's not going to be that far. A hotel full of migrants. These migrants are standing outside the school in the morning and break times and when they're coming home on the evening, watching them, taking photos of them. It's being reported to the police. The police have come round and gave them a softly, don't do this again, you're not allowed to do this and all this crap. When are you going to start protecting our children, Kia?
The prospect of justice destroyed for the victims and their families. I would never do that. And nobody would ever forgive me if I had.
We wasn't asking you to give us the case files. We was asking, when did you know about the Rising and the Al Qaeda death manual? When did you know? Simple. Or did you know? Yes or no? When did you know? Was it the same day? Was it the next day? Because finding them items would have been high priority to let you know. Right? So you would have either known the same day or the following morning.
That is why the law of this country forbade me or anyone else from disclosing details sooner. Nonetheless, it is now time for those questions. And the first of those is whether this was a terrorist attack.
It was.
The blunt truth here is that this case is a sign. Britain now faces a new threat. Terrorism has changed. In the past, the predominant threat was highly organized groups with clear political intent, groups like Al Qaeda. That threat, of course, remains. But now, alongside that, we also see acts of extreme violence perpetrated by loners, misfits, young men in their bedroom, accessing all manner of material online.
Look, we've had lone wolves. We've had them for years. For years. So this isn't anything new. You're just making it out to be new because that way you can cover your ass.
Desperate for notoriety, sometimes inspired by traditional terrorist groups, but fixated on that extreme violence, seemingly for its own sake. Now, it may well be that people like this are harder to spot, but we can't shrug our shoulders and accept that. We can't have a national security system that fails to tackle people who are a danger to our values.
Oh, don't make me laugh. National security system. What national security system? Fuck.
Values, our security, our children. We have to be ready to face every threat. And when I look through the details of this case, the extreme nature of the violence, the meticulous plan to attack young children in a place of joy and safety, violence clearly intended to terrorize, then I understand why people wonder what the word terrorism means. And so if the law needs to change to recognize this new and dangerous threat, then we will change it, and quickly. And we will also review our entire counter-extremist system to make sure we have what we need to defeat it. Now, that work is already underway. I've tasked Sir David Anderson KP.
Oh, shut up. You're going in to do an inquiry, which will only come out with recommendations. Look, they had an inquiry, 2022 finished? 3 years ago, you had 20 recommendations then for an inquiry. You've only just started to act on them now, right? So what will this inquiry tell us? The failings. It'll point out the failings in prevent. Well, I've got one thing to say about that. Shut prevent down. Instead of wasting money on an organisation that isn't doing feck all to help our children, then shut it down. It's not worth the space they take. It's not worth the money we are paying. Right? Now, the second one would be make it mandatory law that any place where they have children, there's a two-door entrance. Without that two-door entrance, then they cannot get the license to have children there. That would have stopped all of this. No way would you have got into those girls. Because if you got past the first door, maybe, but you wouldn't have got through the second door. And if you tried to break the glass, you put that glass that don't break. Right? I don't know what it's called. Right? And it gives them time to phone the police. So I think that has to be mandatory by law that any place holding any event where children will be, it has a two-door entrance. You get through from one, but you have to be buzzed in to get through the second. Because without that two-door entry, what's saying any of those girls hadn't just got up and walked out? You know what I mean? Where were the toilets? Were they outside the room? You know what I mean? Did they have to go outside the room to get to the toilets? Which means they could have gone down the stairs and just walked out. So you have to have that two-door policy. Without that, they don't get the license to have all groups of children there. As for the rest of the shit that went on, the police, prevent, youth, whatever, heads need to roll.
The new independent prevent commissioner to
And that
hold
means
this
your
system
heads as
to
well.
account, to shine a light into its darkest corners, so the British people can have confidence that action will follow words. But I have to say, to face up to this new threat, there are also bigger questions. Questions such as how we protect our children from the tidal wave of violence freely available online. Because you can't tell me that the material this individual viewed before committing these murders should be accessible on mainstream social media platforms, that with just a few clicks, people can watch video after horrific video, videos that in some cases are never taken down. No.
I think we need to take this video down, don't you? This is horrific.
That cannot be right. But it's not just the nightmares of the online world.
Well, the
Because when you
nightmares
wake from a
watching you.
nightmare, the first thing you do is reassure yourself with reality. But for far too many people, the state of our society no longer does that. Now, people will say this is all because of immigration or all because of funding cuts. But in truth, neither tells us anything like the full story or explains this case properly. No, this goes deeper. A growing sense that the rights and responsibilities that we owe to one another, the set of unwritten rules that hold a nation together, have in recent years been ripped apart. Children who've stopped going to school since the pandemic. Young people who've opted out of work or education. More and more people retreating into parallel lives, whether through failures of integration or just a country slowly turning away from itself? Wounds that politics that have contributed must try to heal. Thirdly, there are also questions of Westminster, a system that is far too often driven by circling the institutional wagons, that does not react until justice is either won by campaigners or until appalling tragedies like this finally spur a degree of action. Time and again, we see this pattern, and people are right to be angry about it. I'm angry about it. Southport must be a line in the sand, but nothing will be taken in this inquiry. Nothing. Most importantly, it will need to be watching right now, and then we've heard all the promises. And we've seen that throughout this case. A suggestion that there has been a cover-up.
There has.
I want to put on record that yesterday's guilty verdict only happened because hundreds, if not thousands, of dedicated public servants worked towards it. Many of them in absolutely harrowing circumstances. On them. Yet I'm under no illusions that until the wider state shows the country it can change for people. So I want to be crystal clear in front of the British people today. We will leave no stone unturned.
Clear. Oh, I hate those two words, crystal clear, because as soon as I hear those two words, crystal clear, I know it's going to be BS coming out the mouth.
I was the prosecutor who first spotted failures in grooming cases in my institution, the CPS, 14 years ago. And I was the prosecutor who first did something about it by bringing the rape gangs in Rochdale to justice. And so my approach as Prime Minister will be no different. If any short...
So why won't you, as Prime Minister, do a national inquiry into the rape gangs of the UK? The other 50 towns and cities. Why? You're now Prime Minister. You can do that. So why won't you do it? Because you haven't got the balls.
Comings are now holding back the ability of this country to keep its citizens and its children safe. I will find them and I will root them out. Because when it comes to justice, the failure to be transparent is not only disgraceful on its own terms, it is also the enemy of strong communities. It spreads suspicion more widely and allows division to win. I remember when this happened, in those dark days of the summer. And I remember that, like now, the whole country grieved for Southport. But I also remember how it was profoundly moved by their example. Because even as that community faced an unimaginable evil, even as they had to endure mindless violence, bricks and bottles thrown at their community, their businesses, their mosque, police officers attacked, including those who were on the scene responding to this vile murder. Even despite all of that, they chose to come together. They chose to pick up the pieces of their lives. They chose to rebuild, brick by brick, side by side. Strangers no longer strangers, a community. This country has no shortage of empathy for the people of Southport. I know that. But in the face of such darkness and tragedy, what we really should do is follow their example. That is what we need to face this new threat. But also something more. Because national renewal isn't just about public services or the economy. It's about turning us back towards ourselves, giving people confidence in a shared future, so people can once again see the strength and power in themselves and in this nation. But that can only begin today, by holding up the mirror and facing what we see. So wherever this inquiry goes, we will follow it. No matter the...
Right, so you obviously look in the mirror every day, Kia. Right? We all do. So, why aren't you following it?
boats it will rock, no matter the vested interests it will threaten, we won't hide. But then, most importantly of all, we will act, because this time it will be different. Southport will be a line in the sand. We will honour those 3 little girls and deliver not just justice, but the change that the people and families of Southport deserve. Thank you. I will now take a number of questions from...
No, I'm not going to listen to the questions. Right? So, in fact, I'll get that off. I want to get... we're going to look at this video. Right? Just make sure you can see this. Take this down.
Accordingly, in total, I sentenced Rudy Cabana to 13 sentences of custody for...
Excitedly gathered.
Hang on. Right, we're going to start from here, okay?
Never be released from jail after he stabbed BB King, Elsie Stancoombe, and Alistair Silva Guire to death on July 29th. Liverpool Crown Court heard details of the children's injuries that were so horrific their parents asked the media not to repeat them. Rudy Cabana has now been jailed for life, with a minimum of 52 years following the horrific triple murder. Sentencing, Mr. Justice Goose said he would have killed all 26 children in the community space if he could have done. He also said it was highly unlikely that Rudy Cabana will ever be released. Chilling footage released by police shows Rudy Cabana arriving at the building in the back of a taxi, ready to kill. Hiding behind a surgical mask, the monster refuses to pay the driver, who repeatedly asks him, cash or card. He then exits the vehicle and makes his way to the community centre, where 26 innocent children had excitedly gathered for the booked-out Taylor Swift dance class. Rudy Cabana attempts to gain entry through a large door before sneaking in through an open stairwell to his right. Once inside, the triple killer unleashed his rampage, slashing at children and adults one by one. Further footage shows his father removing him from a taxi a week earlier.
He's not removing him, he's talking to the taxi driver.
The shameless triple killer today caused further anguish for the victims' families with his courtroom stunts. Rudy Cabana was removed from dock shortly after the sentencing began, shouting that he was ill and needed a paramedic. As he left, one family member shouted, "Coward," as others shook their heads. He was then removed for a second time after lunch when he made another vile outburst. Rudy Cabana had pleaded guilty to 3 counts of murder and 10 of attempted murder. The teen also admitted 2 terror offences after police found ricin and Al-Qaeda manual at his home. Tonight, PM Keir Starmer called it one of the most harrowing moments in our country's history.
It says there to moments before the police arrived. This is when the police arrived to apprehend the killer. They'd already apprehended the killer, who was at the studio. He was standing over the youngest little girl with a knife in his hand. This is his bedroom.
Ask this
Fast
question
forward
before I
there
confuse.
because I don't want to show the knives.
Today, Axel Rudikabana has been sentenced for his cowardly and vicious attack on the young girls who'd gathered at Heart Space on the 29th of July 2024 to have some fun in their school holidays. They had come together for a Taylor Swift themed morning to enjoy dancing, singing, and making friendship bracelets in honour of their idol. Those girls who range in age from 6 to 13 were the polar opposite of the calculating teenager who carried out the harrowing and atrocious premeditated attack. The victims were enjoying a day of youthful innocence, untainted by the twisted and unhealthy fascination with violence that drove Axel Rudikabana to carry out the atrocities he'd planned in the days leading up to the 29th of July. His terrifying attack resulted in the deaths of Bibi, Elsie, and Alice. According to prosecution counsel today, 2 of those children suffered particularly horrific injuries, which can only be described as sadistic in nature. He also attempted to kill 8 other children as they escaped, and 2 adults, and traumatized the remaining children who had managed to escape physically unharmed. Since his arrest, he has shown no remorse for his actions. When his home was searched following his arrest, a number of weapons were recovered, including the biological toxin ricin, which the defendant had produced in his bedroom. On his computer devices, a large number of images and documents were found, which demonstrated that he had a long-standing obsession with violence, killing, and genocide. Amongst those documents was a version of the Al-Qaeda training manual, which provides instruction on how to commit acts of terror, including with a knife and with poisons such as ricin. Having researched the atrocities committed by others, the evidence that suggests that he set out to emulate them. But I do hope that knowing he is now convicted for the most horrendous of crimes and he's in prison will bring some small comfort to those families.
I'm sure that Rudikabana had a...
Right. Now, I had to jump a lot of that videos because I don't want to be showing the knives, the weapons. So I might have to go and edit this at the end. So I don't know what to say about this person. I'm just lost for words. All I can say is the DP, I believe, should be enforced on cases like this, especially him. Why should we pay for him to sit in jail for the next 52 years? You know what I mean? Why?
This is Axel Rudikabana on July the 29th on his way to carry out a knife attack on a class full of young girls. At the bus stop, he paces up and down while phoning for a taxi. On that 5-mile journey, he's silent until the very end. When he checks, he's at the right address. After he refused to pay, the taxi dash cam records him approaching the door of the dance studio, looking to find his way in. We know what happened next. Inside, 26 girls were enjoying a Taylor Swift dance event at the start of the summer holidays, an event that had sold out. The girls were at a table making friendship bracelets when, without a word, Rudikabana entered and grabbed the child nearest to him. He then moved on to a second and a third, lunging at them. Leanne Lucas, who was running the class that day, said she only realized what was happening when she felt a knife go into her back. Some people left the courtroom because the details of what happened here that day were so graphic. The court was played CCTV footage in which the screams of children can be heard. Leanne Lucas is seen trying to usher them to safety. One child tries to leave the building, but is pulled back in by Ruda Cabana. She was one of the injured. Deanna here, KC, said the injuries sustained by two of the children who died could only be described as sadistic in nature. BB King, Elsie Dot Stancombe, and Alice Aguiar died in the attack. 8 other girls were injured. The court heard Ruda Cabana's only intention that day was to kill. After he was arrested, he told police, "It's a good thing those children are dead. I'm so glad. I'm so happy." Among the weapons at his home, police found a second knife.
Right. Now we're going to... I have to keep stopping for all the knives. I can't show the knives.
Live knowing I survived when children died.
Hold on.
The trauma of being...
To address the court.
I cannot give myself compassion or accept praise, as how can I live knowing I survived when children died? The trauma of being both a victim and a witness has been horrendous. The impact this has had on me can be summed up by one word: trauma. He targeted us because we were women and girls, vulnerable and easy prey.
There was a statement from the parents of Alice.
Alice was always a very kind girl who valued equality and fairness at the core. A world of possibilities awaited her, a best friend anyone could ask for. We were so lucky and privileged to have her. Every day felt like a gift. In a matter of minutes, our worlds were shattered and turned upside down by the devastating attack on our Alice, a pin drop that changed our lives forever. We kept our hopes up every second during Alice's 14-hour fight, but once she had lost her fight, we lost our lives.
And from Elsie's mum.
You deliberately chose that place, fully aware that there would be no parents present, fully aware that girls were vulnerable and unable to protect themselves. We were robbed of the opportunity to protect our girls. What you did was not only cruel and pure evil, it was the act of a coward.
Ruda Cabana wasn't in court to hear any of that, or the judge sentence him.
The prosecution have made it clear that these
No, that's
proceedings
another
were
thing.
not...
That's another thing that has to change. I would have had him put in a straight jacket with a gag over his mouth, handcuffed to that flipping chair, to listen to those witness statements, to listen to the judge give his sentence. They should not be allowed. I don't care if they're in pain. I'm in pain. I'm dying. Well, die then. But you've got to sit there and listen to what these people have to say. You know what I mean? I have got no compassion for that person. This is the guy who was in the building at the same time.
At the end of the darkest week many in Southport have ever known. Tonight, we bring you 2 accounts from the tragedy, which demonstrate the best of the community. The stories of 2 men who did good in the face of unthinkable evil. One, a grandfather who sheltered terrified children in his home. The other, a man who put his own life on the line. And that's where we start tonight. John Hayes ran towards danger from a neighbouring office and came face to face with a knife attacker accused of murdering 3 little girls. He tried to stop him, but was himself stabbed in the leg. He's now recovering at home from where he agreed to speak to ITV News. John told us he's no hero, but just wishes he could have done more to help the young victims taken from their families.
John Hayes was at work in his office on what was a regular Monday morning.
I heard lots of children running out the buildings, screaming, shouting, and that itself isn't unusual because kids are very excitable normally when they come out of these classes. So that alone didn't surprise me or strike me as unusual. But that didn't then die down, which it normally does. And some of my colleagues got up to look out of the window. And it was only at that stage when one of them witnessed a young girl on the floor, I assume by the front door of the entrance to our building, and said words to the effect, "There's a girl outside bleeding out." And as soon as I heard that, I ran. I basically ran the full length of our office to go and find out, if I could help and what was happening to her. And I never got as far as her because she was outside. So still on the first floor, when I opened our office door, I was confronted by another girl on the floor who looked like she had multiple stab wounds and was heavily blood soaked. And this guy in front of me with a knife, who then came towards me, in a pretty menacing way. And I thought, he's going to kill me too if I'm not, I didn't rationalize or, you don't have time to do a risk assessment. I just put my arm up when this knife was coming towards me. And I didn't even realize I'd been stabbed initially until I looked down and saw blood coming out my leg. And I tried to kick him with my right leg. And then that's when I fell over.
A colleague put a tourniquet on his leg shortly before the paramedics arrived.
I didn't see anything of the the sort of horror show outside when I was carried out on a stretcher, because I'm horizontal and I had 3 guys on either side of me carrying me out the building. And they took me, strangely, I thought they'd be taking me into an ambulance, but they took me right down the car park, and it's about 100 meters, and put me in the road, which would become a makeshift holding area, because there was, it was a lovely sunny day. I'm lying on my back in the road on a stretcher, looking up at blue sky with sirens and flashing lights and people shouting, and it was surreal, what was unfolding. But I wasn't really taking much attention of what was going on around me and having a look who else was injured. I was just in quite a lot of pain and wanted to get into that ambulance and away. But I was probably in the road for, I don't know, it felt like perhaps 20 minutes or more. It could have been longer, it could have been shorter. But I was kind of waiting my time to get in the ambulance. I'm glad I didn't, pleased that personally, that I didn't have to witness all the anguish. Those parents arriving onto that scene, yeah, it must have been horrific for that, particularly the 3 parents that lost children. So, but others have had a lucky escape, including me.
How do you feel when people say to you, you are a hero?
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I was brave about the whole thing and confronting a knife man. That's not the story at all. It's, and as I've said to everybody that's asked, I don't want this to be about me. I want this to be about the families of those 3 little girls. I'm really, really saddened to know what's happened, and it's going to take me a while to come to terms with that. It really is. How are you doing on that journey? Not great. I had last night a few flashbacks which weren't pleasant. I'm still in quite a lot of pain, but I can get around. I'm hobbling around, learning how to use crutches. Helen's been hugely supportive. It was really nice to see my guys from the office came around this morning. I wanted to see them and give them a hug. I also wanted to make sure that they were okay, to try and assess how they were dealing with it. And I think by and large, they're all coping.
John was discharged from hospital yesterday, and he's relieved that others are recovering too.
The parents of Leanne Lucas, I think her surname is, who was running the class, came to see me whilst I was in hospital. Obviously, I was concerned about her and they were concerned about me, but it was nice to meet and talk to them. We didn't really discuss what had happened, but they just wanted to come and say hello to me. It was nice to see them.
Are you able to share with us how Leanne is doing?
I believe she's going to be okay. And I suspect that what she was doing was shielding children. So if you want to talk about real heroes, then that's her, definitely.
John's wife Helen told me off camera that a police officer said he undoubtedly saved someone's life. But he says the focus should be on the 3 little girls who couldn't be saved. Would you like to say anything to the parents of those children?
Well, only that my thoughts are with them. I can't imagine what they're going through. There's nothing I can say that will lessen their grief, I'm sure. Only that I'm sorry I couldn't have done more to stop it. But
and then we got this one. Hang on, this one.
We were driving down Hart Street, and then all of a sudden he slammed on the middle of the road and said, "Have you seen that?" I said, "No." He reverses the van back, and then all I see from my side was literally half a head from a girl hanging from the side of a car. So I jump out the car and I go up to her and I just ask her if she's all right, and she just looked in complete shock. She had blood all over her body, and she just screamed at me. She said, "He's killing kids over there. He's killing kids over there." I just looked at Martin and we were just in complete shock. We just didn't know what to think, didn't know what to do. But looking at this woman, she looked in a really bad way, and I just knew it was a really bad situation. So me and Martin start walking towards the place where she's pointed at.
And how far is she from the place where she's pointing at?
She's at the top of the road, leaning against the car. There was more people down the road, but at this stage, at the time, we were so focused on this girl, we didn't see there was more people down there. We're just hearing this girl screaming to us that this guy's stabbing kids at this location. So we start walking down, we'll start running towards this place where she's pointed, and she gets up. It's like she used all of her energy to point to us where this was happening, and then she completely collapses onto the floor. In which case we go up to make sure she's all right. She was also on the phone to the police at the same time, which is when I've took the phone off her and I'm on the phone to the police. Martin's making sure she's all right. I start running towards this direction, which is obviously where this is happening, where these kids are in the dance studio. And I'm running, I get to the car park, and as I'm running towards the door, there's a car which is a woman's in the car, and she's beeping her horn and she's screaming for me to come over. So I run straight over to the car. And it's just a middle-aged woman, and she's got, I presume, one of her child in the passenger seat, and then in the back there's like 4 or 5 more kids, all in the back, covered in blood. It was like a scene of what you'd see on like a disaster film, honestly. And she just looked at me, the woman, she said, "Honestly, love, I just want to make sure these kids are safe. I'm just going to park on the road. Please, can you get this girl out?" So I open. You got the driver's side. On the driver's side, behind the driver's seat, I open the door, and honestly, like, there's this girl. which will probably stay with me for my life, for the rest of my life. And she was completely out of it. I can't explain to you how horrific it is what I saw, but in the moment, I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know what to think. I just wanted to get her out of the car and try and get her to safety. So I've just got this girl out of the car and I've ran towards the road, and I've just been, because we're there at the start, you see, so there's only a few members of the public, and the main thing in that specific moment was like, there's still more, like, this is actually happening, and there's people inside there, because that's where they've been, that's where they've come from. So I just initially wanted to get her out of the car and try and get her to safety, like, but I didn't know where was safe, if that makes sense. So I take her to the road and I'm shouting, I'm screaming for help. Someone ring the ambulance. Everyone was trying to do the best job. No one expected that would happen, but in the moment, all you want is just like a professional to be there to like kind of know what to do. So I go to the front, I take her out of the car park, I run to the front, I'm shouting all this, and we put her down. Me and Martin put her down. Then Martin stays with this girl then. Okay, and there's more people which are coming at this stage. There's more people coming to help. Everyone's gathering around. Everyone's doing what they can do. And then I run back in. I run back into the car park, and I basically run towards the door which is the entrance and the exit out to the dance studio. And you get there, and it's like the building's like an L shape, and you've got the gym where I used to go to upstairs, and there was two men in this bit here, and I don't know who's who. I don't know what's going on. So I'm looking at these men, and they just look completely shook up and frightened, and they're pointing to this dance studio, saying, "He's in there, mate. He's in there." So I open the door downstairs, and as you go in, there's just a stairway which goes up. There's a landing at the top, and then which goes through to, I presume, the dance studio. So I just remember opening the door, and I was shouting hello, just see if anyone was there. And then I remember just taking a step on. I remember go onto the stairs and took a few steps onto the stairs. I'm still at the bottom of the stairs though, and I look up, and then there's just this guy there at the top of the stairs, just in a full tracksuit with his hood up, with a knife, and it's like he maybe didn't realize that I was going to be in there, but we've looked at each other, then he's scurried off to the side.
And you locked eyes with this man? You looked at him?
I looked at this guy, yeah.
At that point, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking things which I'm not allowed to be saying on Sky News right now, but I'm just at the same time, I'm really scared as well. Do you know what I mean? Because all I saw was a knife. All I thought was there was more people in there which were damaged, which were hurting people. So I'm there by myself at the bottom of the stairs. I didn't know, honestly, I just wanted to hurt him so bad, but at the same time, I was scared for myself, and I was just wanted to be up there to help anyone who was up there. So I've come. He's scurried off. I've come outside, and then I've been screaming then, because I know where he is. I'm trying to get everyone to come to the door. We were there for a good 10 minutes before any police arrived, and just the moment we turned up to the point where I've smashed the door, was a good 8 to 10 minutes, which felt like a lifetime, if that makes sense. And then we've ran, I'm completely hectic now, because I've seen the guy and I know he's up there, and I'm just screaming, where's the police, where's the police? One police car finally turns up, and I'm screaming, he's down there. He just gets out where I am, and then he runs with me to the door. We run straight to the door, and then we get to the doorway, and then he said we've got to wait for backup, got to wait for someone else to come there, because he only had a baton on him. And then his colleague came with a taser, and then he comes in front. So these two police officers go up the stairs, then I'm right behind them. They tackle this guy down to the floor. Straight away, there was no kind of fight at all. They just tackle him down to the floor, and I've grabbed this girl, and I'm walking down the stairs, and I start running towards the ambulance as soon as I get outside, and I'm sprinting towards the ambulance. I put her down, with a medic, and then straight away the paramedics runner, they were asking me to go to the ambulance, get these certain things like, for the drip and other things which I can't even tell you the names for, but I was just trying to be there for her as much as possible, since that guy, when the police came there and we ran and the suspect went down, it was kind of all done then, but the damage had been done.
But you felt compelled to stay and continue to help.
Yeah. So Martin stayed with the first girl who I pulled out of the car. And then I stayed with the second girl who I took from upstairs. I'm in a mess anyway because of what's just happened. And I'm just thinking, I hope she survives. There was parents coming up to me, like asking me to describing what their kids were wearing that day when they were going into the holiday club. And I just didn't know what to say. And they were asking, is she alive? Is she safe? And just didn't know what to say. And it was horrible. It was really disgusting to kind of be a part of it. But I'm happy that I was there at that time. I just really wish that it didn't happen for a start, or we could have done maybe something more to help.
What was it like as a parent watching other parents come and ask those questions about whether their own children were alive?
Well, this is what I mean. Obviously, just having my baby Avani, like I'm a new dad, and that was one of the hardest things for me when I'm first off seeing these children in that position. These children weren't crying. They were absolutely terrified, if that makes sense. And then when these parents start turning up towards the end, because they're there to pick their children up from a Taylor Swift holiday club, and they're turning up and they're in absolutely hysterics. They're screaming, they're crying. They want to go into the building. They're not allowed to now because it's a crime scene. They're coming asking me for questions and wanting just no information. It's upsetting. It's heartbreaking. It made me feel disgusting. Really upset. But I'm still processing it in my head as well now, because it only happened yesterday. I just feel completely shook up of what's gone on, to be fair. I'm just really upset for all the parents and all the children who had to go through that yesterday. And, you know, just makes me want to be a part of some kind of first response unit who's there to like help people in that situation straight away. Because when you're in that situation of you're needing someone there with some kind of physicality, some kind of weapon there to defuse the situation, I mean, you need them there instantly. I feel disgusted for the whole situation of what's actually happened. Everyone's being affected by this. It's not just a small thing. I think everyone's going to be affected by this. And the fact that it's all children as well makes it the whole situation 1,000 times worse in my eyes. You know, they can't protect themselves at all.
You ran towards danger. Do you consider yourself, I know you probably wouldn't label yourself as such, but you consider yourself a hero? What you did is not...
I know. Honestly, so many people have messaged me saying that, and I'm not going to label myself a hero at all, but well, no buts. I'm not going to label myself a hero at all. I just done what I felt was right in the moment. And in the moment, I was seeing a mixture of red, because I was so angry and just like, I need to like help these people. So I just done what I felt like I could do, and just everything I could do. That was all I could do. And you know, it's all happened now. And I think back to it and I think, what if I actually, because we're doing windows, see, what if I ran in and got the pole from the van, and what if I went and done all this? But in the heat of the moment, you know, you can just do what you feel is right. And when I got to that point, when I was on the steps and I looked at him and I just thought, if I go up there, you know, what's to say there's not another man there? Or what to say that he gets lucky and he gets me, then I've lost my life then. So but that's what I'm questioning in my head now. Maybe if I ran up, things could have been differently, if you know what I mean. But I'm happy that I've done what I've done. And I'm happy that I've at least managed to.
But you see, that piece of shit was up there standing over that little girl when the police got there. And it took the police 10 minutes to get there. You know what I mean? 10 minutes for the police to get there. And I think what is, they've shut so many police stations down, right? When I grew up, you had, like, Christ's sake, when I grew up, there was a police station just round the corner from me. And then there was another police station up by my gran's. You know what I mean? All within walking distance from my house, though. And then there was another police station down the road from us. But they've shut all those police stations down, and now you've just got one. I think there's just one main police station that I know of where I used to live. And it covers a whole area, a large area. So it is going to take police a lot longer because they've shut all these other little stations down. And there's one police station which was by my son's school. And we went to them one day because there's something going on with kids from the college attacking the kids from the school. And they said, oh, we're not, this is where we just have our lunch breaks. This one mother went ballistic. She said, get off your backsides. There's going to be a murder out there. They've got students from the college attacking young kids from the school. So this mother was not leaving that station until police came out. Police finally come out. But, oh, that was their lunch break. That's where they stopped to have their lunch breaks. Are you fucking joking me? It's like my son, where he lives now, there's a police station at the end of the road. But that isn't a main police station. I think that's only used as a, like, for police officers to go and have their breaks. The main police station is in the town centre, which can take up to 10 minutes to get anywhere from there. It's just ridiculous. They need to start opening up police stations again and having police there. Even if they're sitting there all day doing nothing. Right? Have them there for crises like this. So they can get there a lot quicker than fucking 10 minutes. It's heartbreaking. Just heartbreaking, the whole of this. Right, I don't know what else there was. I think this may have been the one with the, because this is 21 minutes.
But on any view, it was at least the most extreme, shocking, and exceptionally serious crime. In describing the injuries caused to each of the victims, I will summarise the evidence, being conscious that the families of Elsie Stankham, B.B. King, and Alice De Silva Aguiar are in court, as are the families of each of the other victims. It's necessary, however, in sentencing, briefly to refer to the injuries. Elsie Stankham was aged only 7 when Rudy Cabana inflicted at least 85 sharp force injuries to her head, face, neck, torso, and upper limbs. Severe force was used to cause her death. B.B. King was aged only 6 when he inflicted at least 122 sharp force injuries to her head, face, neck, torso, and upper limbs. It was the opinion of Dr. Seeker, the pathologist, that Rudy Cabana had tried to decapitate her. He concluded that severe force was used to kill her. Alice De Silva Aguiar was aged 9 when he stabbed her, including a chop wound to her head and 4 stab wounds to her back, causing substantial internal injury. Although she managed to escape out of the building, she collapsed, and despite all medical help, she died in hospital at 1:20 in the morning the following day.
I'm going to stop it there. But it's just, will there ever be an end to anything like this? I think anything now that has children, like all schools now, you go to my grandson's school, you go in, you buzz, right? Yeah, they'll open that door, but then they're behind a glass screen, right? You tell them what you want, what you're there for, and you're told to wait, and then a teacher will come out to you, or whoever will come out to you, right? You will not get any further into that school. Will not. All the doors are shut all the time, locked. I've seen teachers come out, right, to take the kids to taxis because some children have a taxi, right? And they walk them to the taxis and put them in and then come back. And this one teacher once come back and she couldn't get back in because they'd locked the door. And she didn't have a swipe thing on her to get in. So she had to go round to the entrance, the reception area, to get back in. But that's the school. And I think anywhere, like now it makes me wonder, my grandson goes to Beavers, right? Is it just one door and you're straight in there? Or is it a door into an entranceway and then from the entranceway through another door into the hall where they have Beavers? Yeah, something like that. They can lock them doors, right? So the children can't get out. And no one can get in. So that's what they need to do. They need to have it where the doors are locked. Now, perhaps if that door to that room where they was having that dance was locked, he wouldn't have got in there. They should have had that door locked. There was young kids in there. The door downstairs should have been locked. But as I said, there was a gym in there, so people from the gym would have opened the door for him. There's people in offices upstairs that could have opened the door for him. So it's just so many failings all the way. From before it happened, right up to when it happened. So many failings. And the fact it took 10 minutes for the police to get there. And when the one officer got there, he didn't even have the right equipment to go in there. He had to wait for backup. All officers should be equipped with with the laser guns, whatever. Right? They should all have them. Why haven't all the officers got one? And you should never be on your own as an officer. There should always be two in a car. Wherever they go, you should always have two officers, two walking or two in a car. But they've made that many cuts to our police that they can't do that no more. They need to start investing in our police force and putting two drivers back in the cars and always have the right equipment on them to face whatever they have to face, not just a flipping truncheon. You know what I mean? Even though the truncheon can knock a knife out of a hand, a truncheon can break a wrist, a truncheon can break an arm. But to say that he hadn't got the equipment, he had to wait for backup. Come on. They should always have the right equipment on them. That is bad. The police didn't have the right equipment on him, so he had to wait for backup. So, anyway, I don't know what you're... I seriously think in this case, there needs to be a discussion on the death penalty. I'm not saying we should use it. I'm saying it should be there. It should be in place for extreme cases like this. Right? We may never ever use it. But if it's there and people know, look, if you do this murder, they're gonna give you the DP. And the other thing that needs changing is the law on the age of the person. Now, the government are allowing 16-year-olds, 16-year-old children. They're children, so they say, but they're allowing them to vote. I believe in Scotland they can do. I believe in Scotland they brought that in where 16-year-olds can now vote. Right? Now, I'm sorry, if you're 16 and you're old enough to vote and you commit murder, then you're old enough to face the adult charges. Right? Now, in England and in Scotland, I believe it is, you cannot buy cigarettes now until you're, I think it was, is it 18? Because I had to feel sorry for this one girl. She just turned, I think she turned 17, 16 or 17 or something like that, or 18. And they'd moved the age up to buy tobacco or cigarettes. And I thought, oh, for fuck's sake. Right, but forget that. If they are going to bring the age to voting, now that's quite a responsible thing to do. You've got to know, you've got to make the right judgment. You've got to look at all the parties. What one's offering the best? Which one do you believe? Because they're all the same. They're all full of BS. Right? Will this party do what they've said in the mandate? Will they stick to their mandate? So if they've been allowed to vote at 16, then I'm sorry, if you commit murder or anything like what he's just done, then you are man enough to face the adult, to go to adult court. They do it in the USA. Christ, there was a big hurrah about this when little Jamie Bulger got killed. Nothing come of that. Lessons weren't learnt there. Lessons are never learnt in this country because they don't put anything into place to have people learn You know what I mean? Nothing is ever put into place. So, if they... So, and I think not only that, it was 9 days away from being 18. 9 days. And that saved him from getting a whole life term. 9 days. Because even they do say you have to be 21 plus to get a whole life sentence. But in exceptional cases, it can be 18 to 20. You can get the whole life term in exceptional cases. And this was an exceptional case. So if he'd been 18, he could have been given a whole life term. And the fact he wasn't charged as a terrorist is just unbelievable. So, those are laws that need to change. Law where you can be charged for a whole life sentence need to be changed. I think it should be brought down to 16. Because if you're old enough to vote, you're old enough to go to work, you're old enough to pay taxes, right, on your work, at your wages, you're old enough to get your own place, pay rent, and all that. If you're old enough at 16 to do all that, then why aren't you old enough to be charged as an adult? So we'll see what happens. Don't hold your breath because I can't see anything happening within the next 5 years. Right? Because unless they set a time limit on this inquiry, say 8 months, you've got 8 months to sort this out, do this inquiry, then this could go on for years. Could go on for years. Which I think is wrong. We're paying for this inquiry. And yet we don't need this inquiry because we know where the faults are. We know where the faults are. We don't need an inquiry to tell us. We know where they are. But the inquiry will give them recommendations, and recommendations that they won't do feck all on. Anyway, I've been here for 2 hours now, over nearly 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 20 minutes. So, thank you for being here with me tonight. Thank you for listening to me and whatever. Please leave me, click that heart on X, and if you're on YouTube, like this video. Share this video. This video, all these videos that you see about this vile piece of ish needs to get everywhere so it stays up there for years. Right? Not so much his picture, just him. So that when people punch it in 50 years' time, oh yeah, oh God, really? No, we can't have him come out. There's a guy in our prison who's been in prison for over 50 years and he's never committed a murder. Never once committed a murder. Not done anything as a terrorist, not committed a murder. And he's been in prison. He's supposed to have only been in there for like 30 years. Something to do with burglary or robbery. He's been in there 50 years. He needs releasing. It's ridiculous what they're doing. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to close it off. And I'm going to leave this picture up. And say good night. And thank you all for being here. Whatever your views are on this case, let me know. Leave me a comment. Be good, be bad. I don't care if you agree with the death penalty. Some people don't. Right? we're all entitled to our views, our opinions. Do you think he should have been charged as a terrorist? Would it have helped? Would the sentence have been higher? I don't think it would have been. But the fact he wasn't charged as a terrorist is wrong, even though he pleaded guilty to the terrorist charges. So, but let's just think of these 3 little girls up here. Think of them, the families, and the children that survived their injuries, and the children that survived without injuries, their ordeal, their torment, you know what I mean? All of those children that was there that day. Remember them. Think about the teachers, the 2 men that went to help. The people outside who was helping, the first responders, what they saw when they arrived there. It must have been horrendous. I really think they need to get these police times down. That's another thing they've got to look at, getting the police times down. So until then, thank you for being here and take care.